Hi, we are live. That was an awesome new intro from Campbell, of course, Autodidactic. But we have Mike from Faraday Research with us again tonight. It's been about a month since our last stream together, Mike. How you been doing? You got some
Yeah,
new
pretty
projects?
good. Yeah, I've been working on several projects. Yeah, I haven't really been posting many videos. I've posted, I think, a couple in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, so I've just been working on projects, really just trying to stay focused on the work that I've been working on and doing a lot of experimentation. A lot of the stuff I haven't even posted. Some of the stuff is with the piezo's and working with quartz crystals and working on the MRA device and working on the Adams motor. And I'm also almost finished the water machine for my buddy, and he'll be getting that soon. So yeah, I've been busy at work, family, all that kind of stuff. The summer's over now. The wife decided to head out to Vancouver for a week, so she'll be back tomorrow night. So
So
yeah,
you get
so
one last stream in before then.
yeah. Well, everybody's probably wondering why the heck I'm wearing glasses. Well, I've been suffering allergies extremely bad today, especially after changing the cage for our chinchilla, which has hay everywhere. And Mikey at Faraday is severely allergic to hay. So I taken a blow for that. So my eyes are all buggy, and that's why I'm wearing the glasses tonight. Normally I don't.
It's
So
okay. I'm wearing my spectacles to hide my stoner eyes, so we would probably look the same with your allergies and my burning of the chronic. The
yeah.
flames. Nah, that's for plasma. And the plasma is one of the devices that you work with, the spark gap. And then have you been working on your Adams motor lately, or what
Yeah,
else?
I've been focusing a lot of work on that and the piezoelectrics, and that's what we're really going to talk about the most, I think, tonight is the piezoelectrics and what the advantage of using them in a device. And yeah, so it's kind of
And for those that don't understand the technical term, piezoelectric is essentially like your
yeah,
quartz crystal electricity
yeah.
or
They,
static electricity charges, and also the orgone energy is that piezoelectric, correct?
well, the
Or
orgone is kind of a byproduct of the static electricity. Like orgons in our body, orgons in water, orgons up in the upper atmosphere. Orgon is everywhere. It's the life force. It's the life force energy that Wilhelm Reich was studying and researching for many years until the FDA came down on him and eventually incarcerated him. And unfortunately, he died in jail. So yeah, he was way ahead of his time, just like Tesla was in a different area of science. But yeah, orgone is everywhere. You can make orgone generators. There's a lot of great books out there on how to do it. Um, yeah, it's just one slice of energy. There's many different facets of energy. And yeah, and I've been kind of dabbling with almost everything in my research, and I'm finding a lot of similarities, certain differences, and that's all part of experimentation and trying to decipher, okay, what frequency am I actually using here? What kind of energy am I actually using here? Is it an audio frequency energy? Is it a static realm? Is it a magnetodielectric, like a scalar wave? Uh, there's so many different facets, like I said, but they all kind of interconnect each other at some point. Um, so yeah, it takes years to go through this stuff, figure out exactly what energy is, and there's many forms of it. Obviously, in my research that I've found, and to somebody just getting into it, it can be pretty overwhelming. getting into this kind of thing, because we're dealing with a science that you're not going to learn at university or any other, quote unquote university establishment of education, because they go under laws. So I'm finding out these laws can be broken, and they don't accept that. That's kind of like their steel wall when you get into that educational realm of regular academia. It doesn't matter if you're going to MIT or University of Toronto or University of Vancouver. It doesn't matter. They
Exactly, right? Like, for instance, cold fusion, they fought, even though it was confirmed like through like 3/4 of the peer-reviewed running of the experiments and testing it and everything. They fought tooth and nail to discredit it. And so my area of science, if I were to go to the academic world, they just like scoff and laugh, like there's no such thing as cold fusion, even though NASA officially has come out recently with articles accepting it, and it's known as LENR, low energy nuclear reactions. But no, you can't call it cold fusion whatsoever.
Yeah, because the regular academia, they live under these laws that have been put in place over 100 years ago. And if you're in regular academia controlled by the establishment, you're not allowed to cross that line. And if you do, then you're ostracized, penalized, incarcerated, whatever. And there's many stories out there of good guys like Wilhelm Reich that knew the science, did credible science. This is not just a guy off the street. This guy has credentials behind him. He is a man of science.
No pun intended.
Just because he stepped over the line or over the line of the laws of physics, that's why they
with Tesla, same with like all of the good classes, right? Like all of the geniuses of the past.
Wilhelm Reich, James Earl Rife, Tesla,
Schauberger, Tesla, Walter Russell, all of them, right?
Yeah, Stanley Myers. The list goes on and on and on. You had Bruce De Palma, and then you had Adam Tremblay. Like, the list is getting pretty damn big.
It's huge. It really is when you look into it. Hey, Daniel Foster, how you doing, brother? And JP Jeremiah from Join the Technicians Exotic Propulsion will be joining us here in a little bit too, to talk some more of the piezoelectrics. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that right now, or?
Yeah, we could do that. It was funny. My wife just texted me, why am I wearing sunglasses? I'm wearing sunglasses because my eyes are so puffy right now. If I were to take them off, half the audience would probably
Because he did his chores. He changed the chinchilla's hay.
Yeah. I changed the chinchilla's cage, lots of hay, and now I'm paying for it. So, yeah. Anyways, back onto topic. It all boils down to this right now. I kind of been thinking about this in the back of my mind. And anybody who wants to get into this realm of what we do, you have to remove the barriers of the laws of physics, okay? That's got to go away, because we're dealing with an entirely different realm of science. Science that regular academia does not want to accept. There are certain barriers that are starting to get breached now with certain physicists, like Nassim Haramein.
He's finally being recognized and like getting acclaimed reward, like accolades in the community after being ostracized for 20 years. But it's that he wrote the papers that proved the black hole within an atom and like just the physics of everything.
Not even that.
But they finally caught up technological wise, that they were able. Predictions he calculated, they've now proven, right? So he was a what's it called, a theoretical physicist that then had the now had the science back it up with the technology.
you forgot one big thing here, and this is where the science gets really kind of risque, according to regular academia. Some of his calculations, from what I understand, kind of insinuate the possibility of the God equation. That's starting to show
Right?
up in his math.
I've connected to that before. It's this universal, like, conscious creation equation, and like it's a
It's
particle,
God.
but it's not a particle because it's all numbers and equations and the structure and the geometry of the universe and creation.
But what he's trying to say, Bernie, is God is now in this equation. And he's I watched an interview he
I
did
would
with
say it's always been the
yeah,
universal.
I watched I watched an interview with him, and he said, if I were to say this 20 years ago, I would have been ostracized, I would have been kicked out of the university, and I would have been blackballed for pretty much the end of time. But now the mathematics is starting to show that there is a God scenario in this equation. So that's a great thing if you're into Christianity and whatever religion that you do follow.
Or
It
just
seems like,
spirituality or
or just
existence.
spirituality, period. That there is a realm that is now showing in the math that there is what's pertaining to God.
The first
There's
time
a
I
God
saw
equation.
this alchemical periodic table of symbols and smoked some weed, I like connected in and was like, oh my God, this is the God equation or God particle if there is ever one. And it's like how do I describe it? A pictographic language of elements and forces in a vector energy equation, if that makes sense at all. But
Yeah.
it's just like the geometry of, and Walter Russell's different vortex-based periodic tables and harmonics charts as well. It's like they all just they come off with this sort of universal, conscious, intelligent design.
Yeah.
Is what I've come to be deciphering, and especially when reading Sir Isaac Newton's alchemy, because there was both his alchemy that was a million words, but then there was also the, what did they call it? It was essentially the stuff on God or philosophical alchemy and writings and conscious writings that were another million
Well,
words or whatnot.
okay.
Prophecy,
Well,
essentially.
here we.
Too.
Okay,
And
I'm glad you brought that up because what do you think my structured water is? And how about holy water when you go to church?
right,
That's structured
exactly.
water.
And not
It's
just the church, those cathedrals, those
yeah,
energy
yeah.
charging machines, and then the organs within them and all of it, right? If
You
ever
don't
there was
even need that,
holy
Bernie.
water, that miracle
You-
of life or stream of life, fountain of youth, it's from that holy water within it. It makes
Yeah, but
perfect
you
sense.
know what? You don't even need those energy sources. All you need what the energy source of charging water is?
Yeah, conscious
Consciousness.
intention, right? The
Yeah.
Maximoto
Yep.
tests in Japan of the freezing the crystals with the playing the positive music or the negative, the positive intent, the negative intent.
Yeah. So this is where the science really starts to get really kind of out there. But I like out there. That's why I'm in this because it's beyond the norm. You know what I mean? So, I'm doing stuff that your average Joe Blow on the street doesn't do.
Outside the box, right? It's
Yeah, it's
the
outside
only
the
way to
box.
understand the multiverse and the bigger universe and higher dimensions is to think outside of the box of the third dimension.
Like I've been watching lately in the last few weeks. I've been watching a lot of the old videos from Energy from the Vacuum series, and yeah, I really encourage you. You can go on archive.com and watch those old episodes of Energy in the Vacuum, and they got a really good one on transmutation. Um, they have another good one on John Sajanka. That one there you should got. Yeah, John Sajika. Watch that episode. That one's really, really interesting. John Sajika back in the early 80s made this magnet that could lift gold. Now
Yes, I've
everybody
seen a couple of
now
those like throughout the years, specific
yeah. So
scientists,
John
alchemists going
Sajika,
different ways.
yeah, so John to make a long story short, he made this magnet and he went with John Bandini, the late John Bandini. They went to this antique store and the guy had all these gold coins in the bag. And he started talking to the guy and he goes, "Yeah, I have a magnet that can lift gold." And the guy looked at him and kind of laughed at him. He goes, "Yeah, right." He goes, "Okay, you're going to call my bluff, all right? You can reach in that hand. Each one of those coins is worth $300 US. And this was back in 1983 when this happened. John Bandini was there. This was actually on one of the episodes of the Energy from the Vacuum series. So he says, "Okay, put your hand in the bag, grab a pile of those coins and throw them on the ground." So he picks some up, put them on the ground. He goes, "If I can pick up those gold coins with my magnet, I get to keep them," with a real smug face. And the guy
Nice.
goes, "Right, you can't do that." He goes, "Yeah, you can't do that." And he goes, "Okay, grab another handful, put it on the ground." So he puts his hand in the bag, throws another wad of them on the ground, and he took his magnet, boom, 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 picks up every single gold coin.
That's
Probably,
an awesome story.
probably about,
I gotta watch that. And so it's
yeah,
called Energy from the
archive.com.
Vacuum.
Yeah, Energy from the
Archive.com.
Vacuum series on archive.com
Okay.
or .org. Yeah,
Yeah, I got
so
my
you can
homework
watch that.
now.
So John Sajika, watch that one, and there's one with this old guy. He's an electrical engineer as well as mechanical engineer, but he does all the diagnostic checking of over Unity devices. He's a
Nice.
good
Nice.
technician that way to actually see if devices are actually over Unity or not. And he actually knew Floyd Sweet personally and how his device worked and the fact that it was over Unity. And a lot of those secrets, went with him to the grave. So another
Right?
great
There's
device that
so
never got
many lost
replicated.
geniuses that in the era of like the past era and age that were all debunked and discredited and hated on by the academic world, that it's like had they listened and applied these sciences and these discoveries and technologies, we'd actually be the Jetsons in 2022 instead of still using the Artemis rocket to try to get a drone back to the moon, supposedly. Like,
Well, now that we've finished, now we've pretty well gone through the COVID thing, right? That's pretty well almost done now. But the next crisis that's coming up is now the energy crisis. And if you read up on what's happening in Poland right
yeah,
now,
so we might
Germany,
actually get funding and get attention for once to get some development and resources into this field.
who knows? You know what? Usually a crisis spawns new things. So who knows? Maybe a guy like me might get some government funding somehow, or
Exactly,
I
right?
might
I'm
get
going to
it.
start applying for some hydrogen energy grants for
Yeah,
researching that with my alchemy.
like it's weird. Like I've done a lot of energy devices, and now some of these energy devices are actually proven to be actually therapeutic, good for your body, like the water is. And the water, the structured water that I use is actually very good for making Brown's gas, like extremely good. I did some tests about a week ago with it, and I was making a huge amount of Brown's gas with structured water. So, yeah, I'm starting to find some stuff for
Yeah, because
therapeutic
your
stuff and
structured
energy stuff.
water, you were able to get it measured and it was actually denser, right? So it's a
Yeah, it's
certain
about
amount of
20%. Yeah,
barium heavy water, essentially, about
yeah.
20%, which
I
would,
figure it's somewhere around 20% heavier than regular water. It's not a huge amount, but there is a difference. The second you drink it, you know the difference right away.
Well, and it would be if we can get that measured and prove that there's some deuterium heavy water within it, it would actually show that just through the cavitation of the signals and the motion that you're putting into the water, that it's actually creating a nuclear reaction with the deuterium forming.
Yeah, or it could be transmutation. Who knows?
Well, yeah, a form of transmutation, exactly that.
So yeah, I've been working on that. I actually have a bottle here I have to take to a friend of mine who has cancer right now, and I'm going to give that to her and see if that will improve her situation right now.
And sorry, Mike, I have to give a disclaimer because YouTube is being relentless that none of this is health advice, and always, always talk to your physician and go to a real accredited doctor for health issues. Uh, like don't try alchemy at home because you will give yourself heavy metal
Yeah, I'm
poisoning
not a
very
doctor,
quickly if you don't know what you're doing.
I'm not a doctor, but I build the devices. I try the stuff that I make, and all I can say from my own experience that it helps me out, and always for certain diseases and stuff, you have to go see a doctor.
Exactly. And then we're doing what people that scientists that know what they're doing in conducting self trials is the first step, but it's in no phase or state to be given out in mass for people to like try to replicate with no idea what they're doing, with the potential of harm that can be done if you do something wrong, like put in the wrong frequencies or have it oxidize instead of being monoatomic and all sorts of things like that. So you have to make sure that if you are getting into any of this Ormus or different types of treated waters, that it's from a accredited intelligent source and manufacturer.
Yeah. So let's get into the piezos. So yeah, you can buy them. You can get them on Amazon, whatever. These are the piezoelectrics. So these are really turned out to be a real wild card in a lot of the work I'm doing right now with the MRA device and the Adams motor. So I've been studying what these things actually do. Say for instance in my Adams motor. So there's a form of power. A lot of people think it's back EMF. Actually, it's from what I've been reading on and the data that I've collected on it, it seems like it has to do with reactive power. And reactive power is basically energy that is stored in a coil or a motor or a transformer. Those devices have a certain amount of capacitance of energy within it. So what happens is you have a situation that Bill Murray has been working on for a long, long time is capacitive inductance. It's basically that energy gets trapped inside the coils. Now, reactive power is set up in a way where you have that energy stored up in a coil, and then all of a sudden it's released. And when it's released at a very, very high velocity and magnitude of the power coming out. So say like your utility company, say you got a company where you run a lot of motors and generators and stuff like that, you get a lot of this reactive power in those generators and motors and stuff like that. And what happens is, this is where the catch is with the power company. They will charge you extra for reactive power, even though that the power is not actually coming, well, the source is from them, but it's the power that's been stored inside the motor or the generator or whatever it is. And then when it suddenly bursts and gets released, the power companies charge you for that. That's called reactive power. So you got what's called power factor. So that's kind of all. I could get really technical on it, but it confused a lot of people. But
Jared Morin goes into it a lot in explaining
right. And this is what I'm starting to find out, how the Adams motor works. Now, just doing it with the coil and just the way he was doing it, you were getting a bit of that effect of the reactive power, but this piezo seems to really, really make that reaction happen really good. And because of it, like with my Adams motor, I was only able to light up a 4.5, maybe a 5.5 watt bulb with it. Now, using the same configuration, same everything, I put 2.5 watts of power in, and I'm powering 40 watts. So I'm lighting up, four 9 watts and four 5.5 watt, four 5.5 watt bulbs. I got 8 light bulbs I'm lighting up now, not just one. I'm lighting up 8 with 2.5 watts of power going in it. So that's a massive power gain. Massive power gain. It's like 18-1.
And it's like that is what could be in every home and reducing this
but the power company will charge you for reactive power.
Right? And it's like we have such an inefficient system, and then there's this green climate change scam and like this energy crisis scam where in fact it could all be like vastly reduced by just increasing the efficiencies of all of these electronic grid systems.
You know how you massively increase the efficiency of an electrical system? I'll tell you guys a secret. Guess what it is? How do you increase the efficiency of a power grid? I'll tell you right now. No mystery, no crazy science, nothing. One thing. Can you guess? Bernie, take a wild guess.
There's so many though. There's like literally 100.
One thing. It's only one thing. It's not hard. It's not pseudoscience. It's no smoke and magic and all this.
Put a like Bell circuit or like a jewel thief circuit within your home.
Well, you're getting close. It's frequency. We're using the wrong frequency. Okay, in Europe and Asia and Europe, they use 50 hertz. In North America, where we live, we use 60 hertz.
And is 50 better or worse than 60? And what's the optimum?
No, if we ran our power grid at 200 hertz, the efficiency of our power grid now goes up 200%. It's frequency.
Right? That's like just right there. That's half the amount of fossil fuels you have to burn or coal or like it's just so ridiculous.
Right. So all our devices, all our transformers, everything we're using right now is using the wrong frequency. If we were using, say, 200 hertz or even 1 kilohertz, our power grid would be exponentially more efficient.
Right? A lot less resistance within the system and the electrical wiring and machines, right?
Yeah. It was deliberately put at 50 and 60 hertz to make it consume. They're making money on watt hours. It's boiling down to watt hours. If you're using 200 kilohertz, it's going to take a lot longer time to consume a watt hour. Correct?
Yeah, right? Like it's
that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Frequency. We're using the wrong frequency. Period.
And they're doing it intentionally, and they're teaching the average Joe absolute ignorance to this to keep the scam going.
That's right. It's all part of a Ponzi scheme. Seriously, it really is. And this engineer was talking about this, and he goes, it's frequency. That's it. Nothing else. You change the frequency to a higher band, up to say 200 kilohertz or whatever, your power efficiency problem goes away. It's gone. But they wish to keep it at 50 and 60 hertz to consume and make you
to charge that meter up.
Yeah, just ramp up that watt hour meter. They want to see that sucker spin, right? They want to see it spin.
And even the old ones were old free energy machines too, right? Like it's just.
Why do
ridiculous.
Why do you think Tesla was always working in the kilohertz range? 32 kilohertz, 60 kilohertz. The higher, the better. High voltage, high frequency. That's why he was getting the efficiencies that he was getting. He was able to power huge amounts of load with a fraction of the amount of energy because he's using the right voltage and frequency.
And
That's
that's
what
exactly what you're learning to do through your Adams motor, through your
that's exactly what I'm doing.
spark
I've,
gap. Which one was
now,
that?
now here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. Now I'm using a different kind of power, and the reason why I'm saying this is I can measure the power going in, but when I put the voltmeter on the other side to measure this power coming out, my meter reads 0. It will not read the power.
Right,
I'm
and
using
they
it's
get
a
mad if
different
you
kind of
mess with
power.
it like that.
The only way I can actually measure this power, number one, loading it up with light bulbs, and just adding up what the watt consumption is, and number two is on an oscilloscope. Those are the only two methods right now I can measure the power on my Adams motor, because a regular multimeter and stuff like that, it can't read it. It comes up 0. It doesn't know if it's AC or DC or whatever it is. It can't read it. And I checked with 4 different meters. I'm getting the same result. So obviously the power, now that really started to come into effect when I started using the piezos in my Adams motor. That was the game changer right there, the piezos. So yeah, it makes it kind of frustrating when you're trying to prove something, or people are saying, oh, how much wattage you're getting out and all this. Well, guess what? I kind of have a problem here. None of my meters read the power, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of actual power I'm using here. Is it just because my meter's not rated for the frequency or whatever it is? It could be that. It could be a number of things, but all I know is my Adams motor output power, I cannot put it on a meter. It doesn't register. So I'm working in a realm that doesn't exist. Well, it does exist, but to a meter, it doesn't. So that's where it gets kind of
A realm
frustrating.
that doesn't exist in modern academic acknowledgement, that is.
Or, yeah, the meters that we
Science
have just
is
cannot do it.
ancient and energies that have existed forever within our multiverse and that connect into the entirety of the universe and possibly even the upside down.
Yeah. So if you want, I can kind of show my Adams motor here running. This
Yeah,
Adams motor that
absolutely.
I have is running on 3 piezos right now. I'm going to have the voltmeter set at 18.5 volts. And the current I calculated just before I went on, it's going to hover about 2.6 watts. So that's the input voltage. And here, I'll just turn my camera around here for a second. Hold on.
Okay. No.
Camera.
I'll switch you back to the big one as soon as you got her going. In the meantime, Bert and Ernie have some monoatomic and diatomic zinc. Oh, here we go. Here
All right.
is the
So
motor.
here's my yeah.
Electrics.
Yeah, this is my light array. So this is equivalent to 40 watts of power. So I got 4 9s and 4 5.5s. So I'll just fire it up here. I'll take a minute to kind of speed up. So just bear with me here for a second. I'm going to hook up the reed switch here.
This video sponsored by Snuggies. Snuggies conditioning laundry.
Hold on a sec here. Got too many plugs going.
Snuggie softener.
Okay. I'll get her fired up here. Give her a little spin.
Oh yeah, you can see as it starts going faster and faster, the full lights all getting powered up and less flickering, more of a steady energy light through them. Look at that.
Sorry, it's a little noisy, but
All good, brother. Greatly appreciate that you muted out for the audience so they don't have to hear it running. Because, yeah, they do get kind of loud. So it's like this is the first test or model is getting proving the principle, getting it working. Second's getting it efficient, and then the third is making it practical and cutting down on the noise and all of that, and making them being able to be mass produced, right? But it's can be
yeah.
a very noisy
Well,
development process.
you know what? It's noisy because I'm using the spark gap switch, and that's part of the equation to get the efficiencies that I can get. Because Robert Adams, when he originally designed this motor, uh, he was using a commutator type switch. So right here is I got the piezo's hooked up. They're in series. Pretty well a basic like pulse motor design. Um, yeah, like some nights I find if the moon's out of phase or there's a solar storm out, um, or electromagnetic pulse coming, stuff like that, it can affect the performance of the motor. But like
Really, that's fascinating. That's something that we're going to have to work on getting you to document because it's extra um, circumstantial, well, not even circumstantial, actual factual scientific evidence to back up many other theories and new scientific ideas out there.
yeah, um, yeah, like especially even with the MRA device, I noticed that there's a lot of geomagnetic activity in the atmosphere, solar flares, stuff like that. It does affect the machines. It does. It really does. I had one night. It was working fantastic. Like I was powering quite a bit of load. And the next day we had a major solar flare. It was a KP7 and it hit the ionosphere and buggered up my MRA device. The thing would barely work. I couldn't get it to resonate because there was so much activity in the atmosphere that was just screwing everything up.
And that's actually that supports. I think Tesla used to talk about how noticing some of those effects too, right, back in the day. And it also supports essentially the ancient alchemists and how much attention they paid to the heavenly bodies and saying that those energies affected different processes and stuff day to day, physicalities, and that there's
Yeah,
actually a science to it of these energies being measurable in reactions with electrical and magnetic properties throughout.
yeah. When you're dealing with this realm of power, you're dealing with a whole different ball. A whole different realm. Geomagnetic storms, aurora boreal, all that stuff can affect these devices, even the consciousness. Now, this is where it
Yeah.
gets a little
Okay,
crazy.
I gotta tell one story first. So
I've
so I
heard, I've heard of stories. Okay, I've heard of stories. Some guys working on a device. I forget who. I think it was Norman, or there was somebody else. I'm trying to remember who the inventor was. But anyways, there was a guy that was coming to see a demonstration of his device, was working perfectly fine about 3 minutes before the guy came. And when that person walked in the room, either his intentions were bad or whatever it was, the device literally shut down. It would not work.
yeah, I've heard of that a few times. I've had something very similar with running. it was monoatomic copper zinc combination. It's called the Keshi Cup of Life, but it was making the monoatomic white stuff for the first 3 hours. And then my buddy I was at my friend's house, and then like a couple of his drunk roommates got home, and the
Yeah.
moment they walked in, it started oxidizing and turning green, and all of the white monoatomic turned to diatomic oxidized copper, the blue stuff, and it was just from that bad energy coming in. And
Right.
another time, this one's crazy. Like my friend Eamon was with me and saw it, and he like joked it was one of the original times I made one of these Keshi monoatomic devices, and it had a 3 volt D or C double A or triple A battery or something that was powering it, and it had already ran for the 3 days, and then it was out of energy, so it had stopped bubbling, stopped doing the electrolysis for about a week. And he's like, yeah, I wonder if if you intend and stare at it, you could get it going again. And then I'm like, watch this. And I started like glaring at it for a good 30 seconds. And sure enough, the cathode started bubbling and producing hydrogen again for a solid hour while we were in there. It was it was nuts.
It's consciousness. And this is where what I'm starting to find out, that consciousness can influence free energy.
Yeah, and it goes into tying lots of the anti-gravity stories of like these devices, these UFO, these craft that were like captured or whatnot, but that it was a conscious connection to the pilot to operate them and to like connect with them, and that there is this higher
how do you think
energy
well
field.
how do you think time travel's done?
Yeah, exactly, right? It's this higher dimensional
consciousness.
Consciousness is key.
The consciousness mixed with the device will make it happen. The device on its own will not work. The consciousness has to be merged with the device.
And that half the time, that's why the intent has to be positive with it, and it must be essentially it is the placebo manner for the scientists that like don't believe in certain things or have these bad intentions.
Right, it won't work.
Have a bias, and it doesn't work for them, and it's like
it never will.
It's a negative feedback loop. Yeah,
it never will.
I have to address Cal Chemist's comment here, and that is awesome. I look forward to seeing this video. And for the longest time, Chris, one of the members of the community, brother from Texas, for over 2 years, is like, Bernie, when are you connecting your Leyden jars to the glass disc behind it or underneath it and the tray? And yeah, look at that, the tray connecting.
Hey, Bernie, I have an experiment for you. Okay, go on Amazon. I want you to order these piezo's. They're 30 volt.
I actually have, my dad has some on order from China for me, actually.
Okay. All right. When you get them, get either a signal generator or whatever, set it at 528 hertz, and stick it to the side of the bottles of where you're doing your electrolysis.
Yes. And I bet you it's going to start forming these plasmoid clusters and also possible cavitation within some of the plasmoid clusters. I've seen there was this one YouTube channel, Bluey's Energy or something. It had about 40,000 subscribers, but I only had it subscribed on my original Bernard Conkin channel, and since I lost that channel a year ago, I can't find the channel again for the life of me. But he started putting in some of those solfeggio frequencies into the monoatomic electrolysis reaction, and sure enough, it was forming star in a jar reactions in the clusters, in these like little ring clusters.
Yeah, it's like the cosmic induction generator that Dollard's been doing.
Exactly.
Like I was doing a couple experiments with my cell phone. Next to it, it was sucking the power out of my phone. It was discharging my phone.
I believe that.
No, it is. It is.
We got to get, so these are all things we need to record on camera, like get it a couple times, and then our viewers will also repeat it.
One night
we can actually start publishing these things in journals for it to start moving forward.
Yeah, one night I was actually doing an experiment with the Don Smith generator, and I was using my cell phone to do some video, and then I noticed my cell phone started heating up, and I noticed the power of my phone was going lower and lower and lower, and I go, oh crap! So I shut it off and got the phone way away from the Don Smith generator. If you're using video or whatever, be very careful around these devices. They can actually suck the power and overheat your device. So be very careful.
It could cause a fire with the overheating of the battery, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The danger.
Oh yeah, for sure. You could blow up your lithium-ion battery. It could be like discharging it so hard that it starts heating up, or it could be going in reverse and actually charging it, but actually overheating it in the process. Either way, it's not good for the phone. So if you work, with these devices, that's your warning. Be careful, because I've had one phone actually overheat on me. I actually had to shut it down. It got so hot. So that was kind of a close call. And I was working with those new vacuum tube spark gaps that I got from my buddy there.
Very nice.
So, yeah, anything with spark gap or disruptive discharge, be very careful with your devices steering. Be very careful.
Welcome, JP. Thanks for
Sorry it took me so long to get on, guys.
No worries, no worries. I understand you're on the AlienScientist private chat there. There's some good things after his stream.
Yeah, we had a few things to discuss about positronium and the nature of space-time and the fine structure constant and the cosmic lattice, even down to the Planck scale. So lots and lots of good stuff. But let's get on to why I joined the stream. Mike, I've been watching your videos. I like that you're working on Norton Wootan's technology. In fact, I really, really appreciate that you're working on the piezoelectric energy generation system. But yeah, I wanted to add a few things if you're down for it.
Sure.
Okay. I'm pretty sure you're already aware, but I'll ask anyways. Have you read the Rex research page that contains all the email communications back and forth between Rex, his partner, and the various other people that have worked on this?
Yeah, I did read it once. I would probably have to read it again. It's one of those things where you kind of skim through it, and yeah, I did go over that note on Rex research. Yeah,
it's a pretty long one, so very forgiving for the sake that you might not have gone through the entire thing. There's just a lot of communications back and forth, and I understand that quite a few of them, in fact, even most of them, aren't directly relevant to what you can stick on your test bench. That being said, though, he mentions a few really important things. So let's cover those real quick for your replication as you proceed forward. First thing he mentions, the transformer is extremely important. In fact, he says later on down the line, near the end of the communications, after 2.5 years of experimentation between him, his partners, and independent replicators, including Bill Beattie, that he's determined the magnet transformer core, aka the transformer core that's actually made of ceramic magnets that have been either slightly depolarized or were weaker, very similar to the to that magnetic resonance amplifier. Geez, I can't remember who else built that. It was another system that used a huge ceramic magnet. But yeah, he used ceramic magnets too. So he says he used a very large hard drive ceramic magnet for the original test. And later on down the line, he finds commercial large ceramic magnets, huge freaking things, way bigger than the core. These are rods, effectively. They may be rectangular rods, but they're rods nevertheless. Yeah. And he's tried with, in this documentation, iron core transformers, ferrite transformers, and a variety of other things. Those don't produce the over-unity phenomena from his observation. It requires this particular magnetic ceramic material which repolarizes its domains to very rapidly align with and generate, or I should say, produce high-frequency transients within the output coil of what he calls a secondary on this transformer core, which is just a coil wrapped around a rod magnet or a square block rectangular magnet.
Right. Now, is it barium ferrite? Is that what they were using, or?
He's tried a couple of different magnets, and throughout that document, I believe barium ferrite was one of the ones that he found does work. He mentions that at first, he initially gets about 1.1 to 1.2 COP, but after conditioning in the period of running for over 36 hours in various tests, he can achieve up to 5 to 6 COP or more in some cases. And there seems to be a conditioning that takes place between the magnet transformer core, which he's using as a domain flipping oscillator, and the ceramic piezoelectric reactive element, which also seems to be taking some kind of nonlinear reaction in conjunction as a capacitor with that inductive transformer core, which is a magnet.
Right.
How about you don't have, unfortunately?
Right. Back in the day, Floyd Sweet was using the barium ferrite magnets, the big brick ones. They're 4-inch by 6-inch by 1 inch thick, or sorry, 1/2 inch thick.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Thank you, Mike.
Right. So what he was doing, he would put his to condition his magnets for his device, not particularly the MRA device, but he would put these magnets in a toaster oven and heat them up to about 200 C. And he would heat them up for about 30 minutes, and then he put them into a special conditioning tube that has coils in it. And he would pulse 60 hertz frequency into the hot magnet.
That was his fish tank, right? You're talking about that massive fish tank device that has the twisted coil wire around it. Yeah. So Aiden Schaefer, he worked with Mark at Falcon Space. They worked on that together, and Aiden is really the guy behind that particular project, and he's tried many, many times to condition his magnets. But I think he's failed to understand the domain flipping principles that seem to be critical for this. So I think he's been able to correctly polarize his magnets. He did mention this, though. 200C won't do it. These ceramic magnets, I've taken a blowtorch to them, gotten them up to about 600C. They don't lose their polarization. And Floyd specifically talks about how weak the field needs to be, that it needs to be so sensitively weak, so barely magnetic, that it acts more like a ceramic core for a conventional flyback transformer than it does like a magnet. But it's got just enough magnetic potential where the domains are still oriented, or at least some of them, and they tend to flip. That's where he's getting his resonant energy, where the system persists, just like Bob Greenyer's bagel coils tend to persist, or not Bob Greenyer's bagel coils, they're not his, but in that Russian document that he read, and Hank Urin and others have replicated, those coils, they seem to persist in this field where they, once oscillated, continue to produce this oscillating electric and magnetic field. So that's what he was reporting, is that the domains are responsible for this in his material. So, you've got to depolarize it, and 200 isn't strong enough. They've cracked many magnets doing it.
So basically, you got to make the magnet very, very weak, in a weak state while it's hot, and then kind of reprogram it with a frequency generator or a magnetic field around it that's set at, say, 60 hertz or whatever.
Right. Here's the great thing that a lot of people don't know about ceramic magnets, but I can only say because I've done it. I've depolarized ceramic magnets with a torch and with a toaster oven, preheating them with the toaster oven to get them as hot as I possibly can within the limits of that oven, because it's got ceramic elements, and then using the torch to finish the job once they're already properly heated so that they don't crack.
Now, here's an idea.
You can repolarize them easier than you can depolarize them. So I just wanted to mention, if you completely depolarize them, don't worry about going too far. Worry about not going far enough.
Right.
That's the difference.
Now, here's an idea. I've been messing around with these calcite quartz crystals. They apparently magnify resonance by 30 times. Now, if I were to heat up a ceramic magnet like you're saying, put that on top of the quartz calcite crystal, and then put a piezo on top and put a signal of 60 hertz in it, would that help reprogram these magnets?
The piezo shouldn't be touching, according to Norton.
And
he says that the piezo should be free oscillating, and even in later cases suspended by either fishing line or fine thread, so that it's not physically touching anything. He mentions that his experiments with placing the piezos on the desk would significantly decrease the output, and in some cases even prevent it from reaching more than 60% unity. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. The piezo should not be attached to the transformer. He has a patent where they are. That's, I think, intentional misguidance in the patent. But in the email communications, which he did publicly share intentionally on KellyNet, there he says, make sure that the piezo can free resonate, and it's even suggested make sure that the magnet can free resonate, and none of these things are sitting hard on the table or losing any oscillation energy to the surface.
So you have to basically suspend everything by a string, or like somehow suspend it in the air.
Exactly. That's what he's suggesting. He thinks that that will be the ideal way to get your 5 to 10 or more COP.
Really? Okay.
He also says that the piezos are really important. The kind that you have, a brass disc with a ceramic element glued to the outside via the perimeter with approximately a 3 millimeter to 2 millimeter wide ring. Those are not suitable, and he mentions that even though he may be pulling only 3 watts continuous throughput through a piezo, they're 50-watt piezos, and they need to be ran way, way, way below specification, so you shouldn't be using anything mounted to a metallic element or anything that would possibly, in his words, damp the oscillation. You should have them free resonating, and they should be singular piezo discs or rings that you attach wires to the inside perimeter of, because apparently the outside edge oscillates more than the inside, and that's where the damping energy comes from. So he says attach the wires to the inside and don't heat them too much, because if you overheat them, I guess they lose their polarization and he will not be able to get them to work in his circuit. So he even mentions in soldering wires to the discs or to the rings, they will stop working if he gets them too hot. It's super, super sensitive. Alibaba sells them. eBay no longer sells them. You can still get them on Alibaba, or you can also buy a unsoldered piezo disc transducer in the 32, 40, 42, and 28 kilohertz range. Oh yeah, there's a 48 kilohertz as well. So there are 5 frequency ranges that you can buy for what they call ultrasonic cleaner horns, or ultrasonic piezo elements, or piezo transducers. Those are all search terms. And those things, you just take off the horn. They have a big hex nut on the end. You'll get 2 discs. Just use one of them. That's what he used. Suspend it and make sure that your wires are attached, because they have clamped plates of washer connectors or washer conductor rings. And I suggest that you don't use those and have any pressure. You just simply solder a very fine and very flexible wire to the inside ring, or the inside part of the ring, and use those. They cost about $30 a piece, and they're widely available.
Yeah, send me the link for that.
Let me do it now in the private chat, and then you can open that, and I would love if you would show it on your screen. Bernie can authorize you to share a screen so that people can see what this thing is that I'm talking about.
Yes, please, absolutely. Steps, what's on WhatsApp? I'm not seeing it.
I'm just gonna top up my coffee here. I'll be right back.
Okay, so I'll play a 1-minute intro video, and then when Mike comes back, we will share the video that Jeremiah has been talking about. What's up? My bad. I'm sorry. All right.
I'm still here.
Uno momento, my amigos.
So JP, were you loading it up, or was Mike loading up the screen to share, or should I try to find it?
I'm loading it right now, but my computer is
perfect.
being pretty well slammed. I mean, I was kicked off for mentioning positronium on Jeremy's stream and referring to the fine structure constant, the cosmic lattice, and the fabric of the universe. So I guess I can't really, talk about that without getting
It's funny
kicked.
how it's like suddenly there just seems to be this static buffering and interruption sometimes.
That's how you know you got something good. At least they give you the verification, right?
Exactly.
I do appreciate being kicked when it's really, really relevant. That always helps.
It's like, yes, I'm on the right track.
I'm still here.
Wow, 0 results? Really? Come on.
Oh, it's not even letting you find the video.
Oh, not a video. This is just an eBay link. I'm just simply trying to find something for Mike to purchase. That's it.
Oh, gotcha.
And he can pull this up and show what it looks like because, again, these are common Chinese-made elements, barium titanate.
Oh, yeah.
With
I
other
can try to get posted or open it if you post the link in the private chat if you find it. I guess. Should I play one of your more recent videos, Mike, on either the water machine or the transducer?
Why don't you play his water structuring video? That's his most recent.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that right now. And then after that, also, I want to play a couple of your recent ones on exotic propulsion there that you've done, Jeremiah. A couple of very good videos lately.
Yeah, if you want, they're just basically tutorials.
For sure. I'll play a couple of them before we are all said and done. 100%. I like them. They're short and sweet. They're very good.
I try to keep it short and sweet because I have a low attention span and I expect my audience to have one too. So why would I waste their time?
Right? Unlike my 5-hour ridiculousnesses. Now I go down. My average is about 2 hours now. So we're halfway through. This is the halfway mark reminder for everyone. And apparently YouTube, actually, the algorithms treat you a lot better if you keep it under 2 hours than those ridiculous 50-hour streams that I once was doing, and we once will do again eventually, but only after we have the app developed that you can live stream to your TV. That's something else that's going to come in a later day here. But
I can't believe this. This is freaking ridiculous. It's now cheaper to buy the entire ultrasonic cleaner system where you have to remove all the components from it as a complete unit than it is to buy the individual components, because apparently having access to the individual components is no longer okay.
That's ridiculous. Stupid sanctions, right? It's that sanction war.
I looked at this 1 month ago. That's 31 days at this point, not technically 1 month exactly, but 31 days ago from this exact date, and they're gone. They were there 31 days ago, and approximately 400 days before that, which is more than a year, I was able to buy all the individual components, every single one of them, including the inductor. They're stripped, gone. I don't know if that has any conspiratorial implications or if this is simply nothing more than the market changing.
Breakdown of supply lines, supply chains, or whatever. Probably a little bit each.
We can't really know for sure, but either way, like these items seem to be freaking gone.
Well,
so eBay's out. Time to check Amazon.
I'm talking about this one right here, this periodic table, the Walter Russell's vortex-based one.
Well, I'm not talking about a periodic table at all. I'm just trying to help Mike find the correct piezoelectric transducer. That's it.
Yeah, so back to Mike's water video without further.
Yeah, I'll just scoot out for a smoke. I'll be right back.
Sounds good, Mike. I'm going to do the same with the little 420 break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Faraday Research. I haven't done a video in a while. Welcome to my bathroom. Anyways, yeah, it's Labor Day weekend here. It's Monday. and I'm off today, and the wife decided to take a trip out west. So her and the daughter are gone out west for a week. So I got all the time in the world to work on projects. So as you know, I've been working on the water machine for my buddy. Actually, we had a pump that we originally got for the project. Got it on Amazon. The thing actually turns out to be a piece of junk. Thing leaks everywhere, draws a lot of current. The thing was just a disaster. So I told him to order the pump that I use for my machine. And he got a pretty close version of what I have. And I'll show you what we've done here. So the reason why I'm doing it in the bathroom is I got to check for leaks. Got to make sure everything's operating properly. So I got this pump here. This is the one that I got on Amazon. The thing actually is very, very small. Like compared to my hand, you can see how small it is. But the thing actually works really, really good. So we got the tank. I got that all done. I put some water in it. I'm just kind of flushing things out. Just trying to get the thing fine-tuned, make sure there's no leaks. I got the filter there. This is kind of like way overkill for what we need, but it's still good. It works well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fire it up, and you can see inside I got the hole at the bottom. I got some water in there going. Let's hope this tube doesn't go flying. So I got it going now. So now we can get her started and get the water, the RPM going. I usually like to pinch the tube of it just to get the water spinning. Since I get the actual water spinning inside the canister, then we can get that vortex going. So, yeah, we'll just let it speed up here, get some RPM going in here. Now, not necessarily you have to have the vortex going as long as you have circular motion, because since it goes down through that bottom hole there, that water is spinning at a pretty high velocity. So you're creating the implosion effect. So now I got it spinning now. I could actually probably get the vortex going. I'll just let it run here for a minute. Get her going. So this is one of the things, yeah, like the vortex actually starting to form now. You can see it's starting to form in the middle there. So as long as you're getting a vortex spin, you're imploding the water, and that's the whole point of it. The next step is going to be installing the magnets somewhere on the tube. I think I'm probably going to put them on the bottom. And those magnets are going to neutralize the water of any bad frequencies. And then the piezo's are going to go on the side of the tank. And then we hook it up to the signal generator, put it at either 432 hertz or 528 hertz. And then you're going to let this spin for about 7 days. And after 7 days, it's ready to drink. So you can have your fresh, you can put spring water in this. It doesn't matter what purified water you put into it, as long as it doesn't have chlorine and stuff like that, then you're okay. I put mine through a filter first before I put it into the machine, so there is no fluoride or chlorine in the water. Where I live, the water is actually quite calcified, like it's a lot of calcium in the water. So you're going to want to buy some spring water, or if you got a filtration system at home, use that water, and then put that into this tank, and then spin it for 7 days at 528 hertz, 432 hertz. You can go on the Spooky 2 website, and they have a free download. It's a PDF file, and it gives you all the different frequencies and what they do for your body. And I found out some interesting stuff that I'm going to be working on with the HHO stuff. That's actually really kind of piqued my interest in a couple of ways, which will actually translate into this device. So yeah, I'll be talking about that in a later video. I just want to kind of show you guys where I'm at with this water, fractal water energizer. So we got a pretty good spin going there, and since it goes through that hole at the bottom and circulates back up through the pump, it's spinning at a very high velocity. And that's what you want. So mine, I have like a copper plate at the bottom, so I got a little bit of the antibacterial element to it. Some people have said, "Oh, you got to worry about copper poisoning." Yeah, but if you got, I got a small plate. It's so small, and I'm circulating the water, past it so fast. Like for the amount that I'm doing, I don't see any harmful effects. Like I've been using the water for over 2 years now, and I'm perfectly fine. Maybe. So yeah, this is it. It's a very easy machine to make. Doesn't take a lot of parts. Just get a good canister, stainless steel. You can pick these up for like $80 to $100 on Amazon. Pick yourself up a good filter. Get this pump. Get your tubing, some fittings. Hook it up, and then now you got a circulation, fractal vortex water machine. And hook up the magnets. I'll be doing that probably in the next video. And give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Also, all my links are in the description. My Patreon page, PayPal. I have those.
Love this device,
so
Mike.
help fund my projects. This one here,
no, we lost Mike. What?
Not too far from me. He's actually one of my listeners, and he just happened to be very close to where I live, and we met up, and he asked me to build a machine for him. So I said, sure, why not? And I'm making some videos for it, so you guys can do the same at home. Very, very easy. This basically took me one afternoon to make. So give me a thumbs up, and we'll see everybody soon.
One researcher spent 20 years investigating the lives of
We've got Mike back. All right. I heard Jeremiah panic outside for a second.
I'm still here.
Very good. And that was your water machine, and you describing building another water machine for one of your viewers and Patreon members, correct?
Yep. Well, not Patreon, just one of my viewers.
So, sorry, Bernie, just open that link that I sent in the private chat so that people can see what the transducer that Mike needs to get looks like. It doesn't have to be that exact one. It just has to be one like that, where you have large, thick discs of at least 5 millimeters thick by at least 30 to 40 millimeters wide or more. I just want people to see that visually, because visual means a lot to our community.
Exactly. I'm just opening it up in another tab right now. And hopefully it is, it might not go into one comment. It might broke into 2 comments. I tried posting it in the live chat for everyone. Sorry, I guess it.
Yeah, it's not going to link because it's,
too big.
Amazon has these long URLs, right?
Okay, we loaded up though. So we're good to share. Amazon, boom. Oh, guess what? We got Michael E. Boyd joining us too right now. What a treat.
He's the perfect guy to bring into this, isn't he?
Right, exactly. I was hoping Mr. Boyd would come. Welcome, Mike number 2. We have 2 legendary mics going on here right now.
Michael, my amigo, how the heck you doing out there, man? We're talking about piezoelectric gravity modification.
Oh, cool. I know a little bit about piezoelectric.
You certainly do.
but at the little tiny scale.
That's okay. We can upgrade and enhance. So show that link again, Bernie. It only popped up for a split second.
Yeah.
Try
Back
that again.
to
There we go.
the
There it is.
link
Okay.
here.
You see the transducer, those two discs, the dark brown things that are kind of glossy there, they have a silicone insulation coating to keep moisture from getting on them, but that doesn't really matter. Those have copper rings to connect them, and then the chassis itself is the other conductor. You can take that big bolt out of the center. You can suspend one of the two of those after you've separated them independently and connect your wires at the center points on opposite sides of the same piezo disc. They have a hole through the center. It's about 1/3 the diameter. Those are what you should use. They do not have to be 40 kilohertz. It doesn't really matter that much what the exact frequency is. What does matter is that you hit the exact frequency they like to free ring at when not in a horn. And that you will figure out with your signal generator very easily, simply by sweeping from a low frequency to a high frequency until your scope gives you a amplitude gain.
Cool.
Kind of like a phase lock loop.
Yeah,
it
you will need a scope.
Like an engine almost, or like cool little device, hey?
In a manner of speaking.
So what you were saying something about there's a silicon layer in insulator. So is it silicon nitride by any chance?
There are many different piezo technologies. He doesn't specify Norton Wutan, I should say. Now that you just okay, Mike, or sorry, I should say Michael Boyd. Let me just bring you up to date on what we're talking about. So we're talking about Norton Wutan's magnetic resonance amplifier. It's a device that uses two different things. One is a piezo transducer disc, like what we're looking at in front of us right now on screen, just one of those two discs that we're seeing in the center of those two shiny metal parts. And the other part is a magnet that's been wrapped with approximately 150 turns for the primary and 150 turns for the secondary, or less for the secondary, so we have a step-up ratio on the output versus the input. Now, Norton Wutan claims that at approximately anywhere between less than 1 watt and up to about 3 watts, he's able to derive between 5 to 25 watts or more on the output by having this sympathetic resonance where the transducer expands, produces a sound wave, dissipates energy, and creates a phase variance between the input energy from the signal generator, which is very weak, and the output of the transformer. In the original experiment that got him on the ball of pursuing this task, he was only using a tube-type Hewlett-Packard signal generator where he simply tuned in the frequency till he got the maximum gain or energy output across a resistive load through a bridge rectifier on the output secondary coil of a coil wrapped around a set of magnets, or a hard drive magnet that he had in series with his transducer core. So
are you talking about permanent magnets?
Permanent magnets, that's right. Yep, he used a permanent magnet, wrapped a coil around it, 150 turns for its primary. In the various tests, different turns for the secondary, but let's just say 150 turns for the primary. That's consistent between the tests as far as I've read through that document. And then in series with that, he has one of these transducers very, very similar to what we're looking at on screen. And then he's powering with that series circuit with only 2 wires from a tube-type function generator or frequency generator, HP. He's driving it with a signal that is slightly higher than the native frequency that this is rated for. So you see how this one on screen, 40 kilohertz is rated for. That might actually free oscillate without the horn somewhere closer to 56 to about 75 kilohertz. That's what he's effectively done. He's oscillated it there. The transducer dissipates its energy acoustically. Therefore, you have an asymmetric balance between the transducer and the inductive factor of the core, and Lenz's law is broken to some extent. And this device, he reports, produces an additional energy output because you've broken the frame of reference due to the fact that you're dissipating energy partially on a part of the cycle through this transducer. He also mentions that they need to be conditioned, or they have to run for a certain period of time under the ideal conditions in order for them to operate correctly, or before they operate efficiently.
So this is a component in the device. The main source of the energy is the permanent magnets then?
The permanent magnet coil combination. That's what he says. It's the main source of energy he assumes based on his tests. He doesn't know for sure, and he does admit freely that he doesn't know for sure, but he strongly suggests that he believes it is actually coming from the domains of the magnets flipping and the extremely fast transient caused by the domain flips within the permanent magnet. He thinks the transient itself somehow has something to do with the extra energy added because it's a faster time constant than the native and consistent, slow, and continuous magnetic field that would be normally associated with a transformer.
Yeah. Oh, I just had a brain fart. Hysteresis.
Yep,
always a brain
magnetic hysteresis.
Dead on. He uses that word.
Okay, so basically what he's doing is he's tuning the magnetic hysteresis to an over unity, essentially, correct?
Right, by dissipating part of the cycle into another medium that cannot return that push.
So now is that medium the piezo? I don't understand where the piezoelectric part comes in though.
The piezo, instead of being a normal LC circuit where you'd have a capacitor completely encased and symmetrical, the piezo dissipates part of its energy during the increasing voltage across it. It increases its physical volume along one dimension and decreases it along the other, producing a longitudinal sound wave into the air, which is at a frequency above what we can hear. That dissipation of energy changes the offset and creates a physical, mechanical, acoustic hysteresis that cannot be returned to the circuit because the air itself and the molecules within it dissipate that energy so that it can never be returned. And he theorizes perhaps that this is the area where the extra energy he's measuring on his output may be coming from.
So he's putting the excess energy into the surrounding medium. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, and the surrounding
and then that somehow is accounting for the power amplification. Basically, it's a power amplifier, right?
Yeah, precisely.
So which that kind of doesn't make sense because how do you do that? How do you get it out of the ambient environment? I could see that that's just excess, you know.
The way that he claims to have done it. So imagine this: you're in the 1970s, 1980s. You have a big old hard drive magnet from that era. The disks of those hard drives were at the minimum 9 inches in diameter and at the maximum over 18 inches in diameter. So these were big old disks. I mean, some of you have seen them out there in the audience, but very few have actually seen these massive hard drive disks. But Boyd, I know you know about these because you know everything about hard drive disks, I would imagine. So you've seen them. And
I remember buying a SCSI drive in the 80s. Remember SCSI drives?
I do, and I had.
It was like a 1 gig SCSI drive. That was huge.
Oh heck yeah, it was, man! And you know that's what. Geez, what's the robot's name? That Johnny Five. Johnny Five is alive. So Johnny Five had one of those SCSI drives in order to deliver the information fast enough because standard SATA and that conventional serial communication wasn't fast enough. Anyways, you know about the big disks and the massive storage media that used to exist before we had modern hard drives. So he used a magnet that controlled the rocker arm from one of those and wrapped a coil around it 150 turns for the primary. He always has 150 turns for the primary, apparently, in his various tests. He varies the secondary between 150 turns for a 1-to-1 ratio to 300 turns for the secondary, 2-to-1 ratio, and sometimes even more for the secondary. But he usually, in his statements, keeps about 150 turns, which is a pretty good, medium to start with around these massive magnets, which he describes as being 7 inches long at the minimum and sometimes even bigger. These are big magnets. He even uses the word big to describe the magnets in his documentation. just so that people realize we're making subtle changes to the domains. We're not making major changes. We're not completely flipping every domain. We're just flipping some of them. These are subtle things. All that aside, he's just got a coil of 150 turns around a big-ass hard drive magnet of at least 7 inches length or more in series with a 50 watt or greater piezoelectric welding transducer. That's the whole circuit, and it's being powered from a tube-type frequency generator or function generator that directly gives the output. The input from the function generator, less than 1 watt. The output from the system, between 4 watts to 25 watts in his claims.
Okay,
that's the whole basic setup.
Okay, but what's he powering this primary with? Where's
the primary is being powered directly with the in-series piezoelectric transducer. Directly, all power is coming from the tube-type function generator. No other inputs, no amplifier, no external circuits. It's all coming directly from the tube-type function generator.
So he's measuring the output of the function generator. You say is 1 watt.
That's what he's saying. Yep, he's claiming less than 1 watt,
and he's getting 4 watts out
or more.
Or
correct.
More, huh?
Minimum 4 to 1, maximum over 18 to 1.
He had it tested. Sorry to jump in here. He had it tested at Georgia Tech, and they calculated 18 to 1.
Wow.
And it's so simple, right?
Yeah, very simple.
That's the part that really gets me about this. It's very simple, but he does state that there are some specific points
look at
that you have to get right.
Look at the carbon graphite power cells that I did. They're ridiculously easy, and they work.
They sure are, Mike. I replicated and verified your results identically. They work exactly as you showed in your videos, and they do indeed produce power from nothing but distilled water, pure, absolutely pure distilled water, no electrolytes, no alkalis, no acids, and the magnesium strip itself starts to break down and turn into, I don't know if it's magnesium oxide in the simplest form or if it's something else, but they do produce power enough to light a very small 2.6 volt and 22 milliamp LED. It's not a huge amount of power, no.
But they're good emergency batteries, right? Like good emergency use, practical batteries.
Absolutely. Yeah. All you got to do is piss on them. I mean, literally piss on them. And they're going to provide your flashlight energy for at least 24 hours. And if they get dry, you piss on them again until the magnesium strips gone. They'll keep on going.
I lit up 36 LEDs with mine. I had 8 cells hooked up in series, and they stayed lit for 24 hours before I had to put more water on it. And if you really want it bright, you put a little bit of salt into the water, and wow, watch them go.
Now, I tried the salt, but that's really the wrong direction to go. It turns out that the
salt
actually does help analyze the breakdown of the magnesium, but you can use other things that won't offer leakage currents, but will increase the breakdown and transmutation of the magnesium.
Yeah, there's obviously better electrolytes out there, but the fact is, it is extremely easy to make, and they do work.
That's why I say piss on it. Use vinegar, pour wine on it. Do like the Egyptians did with the Baghdad battery, that kind of stuff. Any of those things. But ironically, the part that really shocks me is distilled water. Distilled water is incredibly non-conductive. In fact, it's so non-conductive that you can pass in the distance between the magnesium and carbon electrode in my replication batteries, which I called, Mike from Faraday Research replication carbon magnesium battery or something on those lines. Anyways, the distance there is fractional. It's about 1/50th of a millimeter. It's very, very tight. And the magnesium strips provide the power. They break down, they turn into something else. So there is a reason for why the energy comes out of the system. It's not coming from nowhere. The magnesium strips do break down. They do become something else, either magnesium oxide or other, which we haven't fully explored yet.
Cold.
Right, and
But
some of the
I think-
actual alchemical monoatomic, diatomic metal reactants that are part of that too. That I'm.
We don't
finding
know
out.
yet, right? We don't really
Yeah,
truly know
we
what
have to
it
get
is.
it tested. Is like it,
Well, when
it
you think about it, you're not putting any energy into this thing. You're just dropping a little bit of water on it, and boom, you're getting power.
Well, the same
what I
way
mean?
as like the average C battery, it's zinc wrapped around charcoal, right? And then it's the zinc dissolving into the charcoal that gives the charge. It's pretty similar sort of reaction and style. It's just that there's so many ways to actually create and harness energy and electricity that have been overlooked and just not studied or applied.
Yeah, by simple means of considering the conduction of distilled water, which is about 740 kiloohms per millimeter over the over a 1 by 1 inch square area. It's pretty high, and I think that's pretty close to the
change
approximate
the temperature?
coupling. What's that?
Is the temperature change of the?
We haven't been able to detect it because we're only dealing in milliwatts. But I would assume that there is a thermal response. It's just that the energy output with pure distilled water is so small that I'm not sure we can really.
So you get a milliwatt. How big a surface area is the thing?
The rod is, I believe, 10 millimeters by 100 millimeters. Is that right, Mike? Do you remember the dimensions of the rod?
Yeah, they're 10 millimeter diameter by 100 millimeters length.
So you have to, and you have to. You don't have to keep it in water. You just got to put water on it, right?
Yeah,
that's right. Just water. Even distilled water at that incredibly high resistance produces enough to light up an LED. But strangely enough, the voltage doesn't go up. And because I know that distance can't conduct the amount of current necessary for the conduction of the distilled water, the only result that I can think of is that physically magnesium ions are traveling from the magnesium strip into the carbon core and producing the power.
The foil is on the outside, that stuff wrapped around.
Can you see it how I have it wrapped there in a spiral and there's gaps in between? So on the inside,
what's on the ends? What's on the ends?
Just electrical tape just to hold everything in place.
Okay, and then there's
underneath the magnesium strip is just paper towel.
Okay, cool.
And then the carbon rod on the inside, and on the end I stick a piece of 14 gauge copper wire.
Yeah, Bernie, you should show the video that I've got because I show that the clear heat shrink.
Yeah, I just opened up your page, Jeremiah. Is it on the exotic propulsion or is it on the join the technician?
It's on the exotic propulsion, because I use clear heat.
You're saying that it's on the order of a milliwatt? That's the
it's in the milliwatts range. I mean, it's like I said, it's lighting up a LED that maxes out at a couple of volts at no more than 20 to 30 milliamps. So that's the max power that you're going to get.
What's the
voltage? I don't know if you can see in the video. I got a little capacitor bank that's 90 farad. I was able to charge that up with these cells. I put a diode on the end. And I charged up that capacitor bank. It's 90 farad.
That's in the top left corner, Mike, correct?
Yeah, top left. Yeah,
I see it.
You know what I didn't do, though, was look for AC on these things. I should have hooked it up to the scope and my highest frequency 500 megahertz probe and looked for any kind of signs of fast transients. That would have probably been more useful. But I don't think that individual ions are going to give me that signature. Although I theorize that magnesium ions are actually flowing from the magnesium strip through the paper towel and into the carbon rod. I think that they're transferring themselves through that physical medium, and that's where the power is coming from.
Yeah, it's a capacitor. And the paper towels are dielectric.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
So my question is, what happens when you hook them all, a bunch of them up in series? Do they add the voltage?
Multiplies the power and the amperage.
He means
Okay.
that they add up as an addition.
So like when I take batteries and if I take 2 batteries and I hook them up in parallel, it doubles the current.
Yep.
If I put them in series, and it doubles the voltage.
Yep.
So I'm asking, so what's the voltage of one unit?
One of them, we got 1.8, right, Jeremiah?
Maximum, yeah, but the average is
What's the average
approximately
number?
1 to 1.2.
So say a 1 volt, just to be conservative, right? So if you put 4 of them in series, do you get 4 volts?
Yep.
Yep.
And you get the same amount of current, or you get more current?
You get
Slightly
the same
more.
amount of current. Doesn't change.
A little bit more current. Okay. And then how quickly do they discharge?
About 24 hours.
So now what if you took them and you put them in a tub of water? Would they still work?
They don't discharge them. They just simply go until there's no magnesium left.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that means weeks or months.
So you have to change the water how often?
You don't have to change the water ever. The magnesium.
Well, I'm just saying it's going to dry out if you just leave it. If you just leave it sitting out, it's going to dry out.
Every 12 hours, I think, Mike, you were.
Yeah, every 12 hours, I just sprinkle a little bit of water on it, and boom, it comes right back to life like instantaneous. Like it's like an instantaneous reaction when you put the water on it. Boom, power goes right back up.
It is. It's direct. In fact, you only need to. You see those little divides, those white lines that you see the paper towel. All you need to do is take a little eyedropper and wet one of those spaces between the two magnesium strips. You'll already get your full output voltage. When the entire thing is saturated, I'm thinking current, but your voltage comes instant.
Is you build a little robot that like squeezes the eyedropper at the right time. And basically,
but you don't need to. You can just leave it immersed in water.
No, he said you can't leave it immersed.
No, you can. No, you can leave it immersed in water. There's no problem with that. You can.
You can, but I thought you said it.
Yeah, it'll probably wear down give you all the energy.
If you leave it immersed in water, it'll have like that precipitate breakdown. Like decay into oxidization quicker with the metal, I'd suspect, if you leave it in the water.
If you put it in a liquid vessel, you'll basically get the equivalent of an alkaline battery voltage and approximately the same life cycle for the size rod that we've talked about, which is 10 by 100 millimeters. You get approximately the equivalent of an alkaline battery energy output before the magnesium is no longer suitable for producing power. So here I'm showing a carbon rod. I have a 12 gauge wire jammed in the center. I think it's 12 gauge. And here I'm showing the magnesium strip that is used to wind it. And here I'm showing a up close of the braided and very ugly surface of the magnesium strip, which is not smooth, but in fact quite porous and three-dimensionally abrasive, which helps because the surface area is very, very wide, giving a much greater communication with the electrolytic, or maybe not electrolytic, chemical reaction.
Is it? It almost looks like it's galvanized.
It almost does, but it's not galvanized. It's pure magnesium. It's 99.6%, I believe, purity. It's not the best magnesium strip, but it's very, very cheap, and anybody can buy this on Amazon. So here I'm hooking up the meter, and we're looking at the voltage. We're only seeing 220 millivolts initially, and here I was doing this for the first time live on video, so I didn't know better, but I've got 220 millivolts, and it's being shorted by my Slayer exciter circuit, which I have shown to the right of this magnesium iron paper towel water strip. Now here I'm about to add distilled water, pure distilled water. Watch the voltage on the meter. One drop. Here we go. We're already up to 380 millivolts. Another drop. I'm wetting it. We're going to keep that same very minimal or fluctuating millivolt output. It's not particularly significant. But even at that voltage, we can see the Slayer is eating it, and it's trying to light up that little blue LED that we can see just underneath my thumb. So just with that energy, we get some small power. It's only a tiny, tiny output. Insignificant, really, but it's strong enough where the video doesn't do it justice and it lights up that little syringe that I showed. And we know the high resistance of distilled water, so that we know that this is not a classic electrolytic reaction at all. This is not like a normal lead-acid battery, a NiCad battery, a nickel metal hydride, or lithium-ion battery. This is a different kind of reaction. Whatever's happening here, it's quite unconventional.
It's almost like a Schottky device.
Yeah, very much. And it builds up. So here I disconnect the output from the positive lead, and I'm just tapping it to show that there is more voltage on the battery than my Slayer will allow to build up. Here we see on the meter 1.1 volts, and as soon as I connect it, it draws it down. So in a moment here, I'm going to tune the Slayer so that I can get a slightly higher voltage because it's mistuned.
So when you disconnect the LED, that's when it goes up to 1.1 volt, right?
Yeah, but if I left it disconnected,
it's an open
it
circuit. It's an open circuit voltage is what you're measuring.
Right, yeah. It would read 1.6 open circuit if I didn't screw with it, but I am screwing with it. It would be almost equivalent to an alkaline battery or a carbon pile battery.
That's cool. So what's the short circuit current that you measure?
Approximately 5 milliamps or less. It's very low.
That's pretty good.
I thought so too.
So 5 milliamps short circuit, and I see like 1.35 volts open circuit voltage. That's not bad.
The peak that I've got is 1.85 volts.
Oh, wow.
It seems to be very sensitive of the distance. So the paper towel manufacturer, whatever brand you use, whether it be, Dawn or Bounty or whatever, that seems to affect it quite significantly in terms of the voltage. But the current is pretty consistent between all brands. Now here you can see my Slayer is blinking. That's what Slayers do. And I'm just trying to tune it for the lowest general shunting current, where it tends to be shorting because it's a terribly inefficient circuit using the 2N2222 NPN transistor, which is a garbage transistor, which most of us have.
So the carbon rod, where'd you get that from?
Those are on Amazon. They are $10 for 5.
Oh.
Yeah, I think both you and Mike used the exact same ones, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah. I copied Mike's research because I had a hard time believing that he was really getting voltage between magnesium strip, paper towel, distilled water, and carbon. I had to verify for myself because it just seems so crazy. But when I did the experiment and realized that Mike's reports were absolutely accurate, that's where I really had to reformulate what I was considering here.
Okay, so where does magnesium come from?
Magnesium pulled from the earth from mines that's just wrapped around as that 5 millimeter by 0.5 millimeter thick strip wrapped around the outside as a spiral helix.
So, I mean, if we started making millions of these things, I'm just...
But you know what? Like he's doing it with distilled water, probably the worst possible
electrolyte. Yeah, it's the worst electrolyte. It's the worst electrolyte.
Now, say you got the best possible electrolyte. What would this
thing cranks the fucking power, dude. You get a good electrolyte, you put like vinegar on this thing.
I would
You're
love
gonna get like freaking 40 milliamps, 50 milliamps. You can run a motor.
So what about
like sitting in some of my monoatomics in the base, where it actually turns the metals into this red and pinkish crystalline active state to see if it actually charges it more? Would be quite fascinating.
Probably would.
I suspect it would. We should. I'll have to build a couple and replicate that. And
Yeah,
test
you
it.
What about salt water? If you put salt water on it?
Yeah, it works fantastic.
I suspect,
really
yeah,
good.
I would think that it would increase for sure if you use salt
Even
water.
It
baking
does, but I
soda.
want to cut you guys off here and say that salt water is really counterproductive for producing energy from these systems. So I beg that if anybody makes these as emergency batteries and stores them,
Yeah,
don't use salt water.
Oh,
Please
yeah.
use
Store
vinegar,
it with
use
salt,
anything
it'll
else.
erode it and
Don't
break
use
it
salt
down,
water.
right?
They'll discharge it.
how about
It'll erode it a
baking
lot
soda?
faster with salt water, but I think it'll also increase the charge, but you'd have to, it would decrease the length of the actual battery itself.
How
How
about
about
baking soda?
how about some mild acids like acetone, not acetone, like vinegar? You said.
Like I said, vinegar. Vinegar is acetic acid for everyone that knows it. The vinegar you buy at the store is approximately 5%. If you squeeze a lemon onto it, that's citric acid. It works extremely well. Squeeze a lemon. In fact, squeeze any citrus fruit. You can use an apple. An apple will help tremendously. And some strange thing happened was with an apple, the sugars seem to convert. I don't know how it happens, and I can't possibly explain it, but the sugars seem to convert to extra energy. So you can use an apple and squeeze that juice out. You can use other various fruits, anything that's basically in the acidic category, where you have some of that. Now, a lot of fruits are alkaline, including even tomatoes are generally considered acidic. You can use those; those are really good. But some tomatoes have acidic and alkaline components. Strangely, the alkaline and the acidic components both produce power from this system. It does not have to be a pH positive or a pH negative. It just can't be a pH neutral. Otherwise, you get minimum energy like we have shown in the distilled water control experiment, which is the only thing that I've shown.
How about hydrogen peroxide? Have you tried
hydrogen peroxide? Does excite the system and increase its production rate, but you end up with these little bubbles that evaporate your catalyst faster than you want. And so you have to have an enclosed container to collect the condensates or the vapors. Otherwise, you lose it.
How about baking soda?
Baking soda also works very, very well. Again, you have to contain it. The alkalis seem to produce more outgassing than the acids, and that's one of the little catches. You got to contain
what type of gas is outgassing? What kind of gas is being outgassed?
I'm guessing it's hydrogen from the water. I think the water is being converted, but I'm not certain.
Interesting.
I could find out, though, if there was a good motivation to do so.
Well, I'm just thinking if you do this on a massive scale, I don't really like lithium mining. It's real destructive. So
yeah,
pretty dangerous.
And just like the treatments that they need to extract it are extremely harsh on the environment too, with a very small amount of actual lithium you get per waste process, right? It's very inefficient.
Yeah, and you can recycle magnesium.
So what I like is a electric vehicle where instead of getting gas, I get water.
Yeah, just sprinkle your battery with
water.
At the point where we're no longer going to get killed and driven off the road and poisoned.
Right. If you crash, it doesn't explode.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. And it's good. The battery doesn't affect the environment. It's not detrimental.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Magnesium oxide is no more difficult to deal with environmentally than magnesium strip.
Yep.
There's nothing really as a byproduct to have to counteract. It's a really clean green technology.
Yeah, well, you still have to mine the magnesium though.
So. That is absolutely true, and so, I don't think that this is the
future
and at all.
That's something you have to consider in the life cycle cost of the thing. Is okay. Well, we mined it, and we had these big, giant diesel-powered equipment that was dumping, thousands of tons of pollutants into the atmosphere. So it's like, how green is it?
Exactly. No, I agree with you. The method here is not the most effective method, this isn't going to save us. If everybody built their own magnesium carbon batteries, it's not going to fix anything in society.
Well, right, and well, to circle back to the very beginning of this stream, me and Mike from Faraday, Mike was bringing up that even just the signal, the right, being on the right frequency and changing the electrical grid to the right proper frequency would make just the entire electrical usage 100 or 200 times more efficient. And right there, you're cutting by half or 2/3 the amount of fuels that you have to burn to even put into the grid. It's crazy how things are.
So
that being said, just imagine that the power went out in your house. Imagine that right now your computer screen shuts off. This nice background and everything else that you're looking at, it all shuts down. And you need to provide yourself some light to, I don't know, get things from your fridge that's not turned on, be able
to be able to power your fridge. That's what you need.
Now, yeah, this is a tech that could provide you with that light, with that energy for a short period of time, and it could basically be stored infinitely. I mean, how long can one of these magnesium carbon batteries sit on the shelf? The amount of time that they can sit there is virtually infinite. They're not going to react when that paper towel is dry, and this is something that you could just have sitting there, and all you got to do is either dip it in water or, as I've said, piss on it, because of the chemicals in your urine that will activate this battery. And it's far more effective, so I would recommend that you relieve yourself on your power source instead of relieving yourself in whatever, receptacle you have, and cover your freaking house.
Battery started.
Yeah, just there'll be some great memes.
Batteries.
Exactly. That's really all we're getting at here. Like, this isn't a solution for the power problems, and this won't solve fossil fuels. It's just something in case the power goes out, and you can buy this garbage online, and it's super easy and cheap to replicate. That's all.
Yep.
Gotta have that. More than that,
Yeah, it could save you from a bad situation, right? You need that light right away.
Exactly. I mean, I'm prepared. I built them. I have them sitting here in a big old box.
To get it working the next night and the night after that, you just have to pour more water on it. And it's like, sure, it'll eventually degrade, but they'll at least last and recharge for about a week or so to power your LED over the nights before they wear out in the shortest. And it's just water to recharge it.
And I'm charging capacitors with this thing, so obviously you can charge a battery. You can charge another battery with it. Just put a diode in line with it and just let it go. It'll charge it.
There's more than enough power there. They produce plenty of energy. I've ran a motor off of them. A motor requires a lot of energy. It's an inductive load. Inductive loads, we already know, require much more energy than resistive loads, because you've got to get enough energy to make a mechanical movement for this display of a motor turning a shaft. That works. This can power an inductive load. That's a pretty damn good sign. And all I got to do is add a little bit of something that's alkaline or acidic in nature, and it doesn't matter which side it's on. It seems to not care. It just needs something that's not pH neutral. But even pH neutral, it still works. And that's the part that gets me. I do not understand, and I cannot tell you chemically, electrochemically, alchemically, or otherwise, how this freaking thing works with distilled water. It should not work with distilled water. Every chemical experiment that I have read tells me this should not work with distilled water, period. How it works with distilled water, I have no idea. I really genuinely don't understand. But it does. And there it is, and take it.
So I got a question about the magnesium strips. I'm looking here on Amazon, and they have something they're calling a magnesium ribbon. Is that what you're talking about?
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Buy it, try it, it'll work, and then if you figure it out, congratulations. We'll all know a little more.
So this they have this this it says magnesium ribbon, high purity lab chemicals, 1 roll, 99.95%, 25 gram, approximately 70 foot. Is that the right stuff?
That's the
Yep.
stuff, man. That's it.
Okay. And then what was the other component?
Mark from Falcon is right. Michael would definitely be able to add significantly better information than my input, for sure. and the input is nothing. The input is water. The output.
Okay,
is
so what's
DC voltage.
the it's just called a carbon rod, or
Yep, carbon
Bernie,
rod.
can you link the Amazon link to the carbon rods? Type in 100 millimeter carbon rods and just show
Yeah,
the
can
link.
you put it in the private chat? Then I can put it into the live chat for everyone.
Yeah, just do that real quick because it's just called 100 millimeter 100 mm carbon rod. Just type that in, show it to everybody so they all know what to buy. This is stupidly easy to replicate. Stupidly easy. Works every time.
okay, so it's in you're putting it in the chat, you said?
He's going to in a moment.
Mr. Boyd, would you mind copying, pasting the link you just opened, and then putting it in the private chat, and then I can copy it from there and put it.
I can't, Bernie. I need you to do it.
No, not Jeremiah, Mr. Boyd, because you just.
Okay, I just have the ribbon. I haven't found the rod. I haven't really looked yet, but I can certainly
Carbon.
put in.
It's listed as carbon graphite rod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the ribbon.
Anybody whose computer is working correctly, please post that link for all of the viewers so that they can simply purchase these materials. This took me less than 30 minutes to replicate once I got the materials in and had them in front of me. This is so easy. Literally anybody can do it.
I believe, Mike, you've got a parts list, and Jeremiah, did you put a parts list in the descriptions of the video?
I didn't. I'm just simply asking you to post it here.
Okay.
So I posted the ribbon.
Yeah, I posted the ribbon into the live chat now for everyone. So just click on that, and then the options on Amazon should pop up for you to order the
carbon graphite rod, right?
Yep. Yeah, graphite rod, 100 mm, should find you everything you need. That's the key component in this system.
Okay.
By the way, this does work, I should mention, with other materials other than magnesium strip. You can use other types of strips, and they still produce voltage. Some are actually better than magnesium. I'm not going to go into the whole dissertation of all the things that work, but some work better than magnesium. Some don't work as well. There are many materials available. Some of them are hard to freaking find. Magnesium.
So how many turns of the ribbon is there around the paper towel on the rod?
As many as you can get based on the approximately 1 millimeter gap. You want approximately 1 millimeter between the individual turns, and that's it.
Okay. Is there any certain brand of paper towel you're using?
Brand. 99% or better is fully suitable. 99% polluted and absolutely garbage magnesium purity will still work for this because the magnesium will still go to the oxidization state and still produce the power. 99.9% will do the same thing and give you slightly better efficiency. But even at 99.0%, you'll still get this phenomena, and it will be blatantly obvious. So you do not need high purity to demonstrate this phenomenon.
Hey, Bernie, I got to head out for the night here. I got to work early in the morning, so.
For sure, brother. I was just noticing we're getting at that 2-hour mark, and you're in that Eastern time, so it's 10 for you now.
I'm gonna go another 10 minutes, and then I gotta cook. But
for sure.
I'm supposed to call Falcon back.
I put the Amazon link for the graphite rod. I just wanted to let you know.
Perfect.
Post it, Bernie. Show it.
Yeah, I'm gonna open
Amazon
it right now for it 100%.
Okay, guys, take it easy, and we'll talk soon.
For sure,
Cool.
Mike. Thanks for coming on. Faraday Research, our good friend. And the links are in the description. And I'm also going to post the link again for this instructional video on how to build these batteries in the live chat right now. Make sure you give Faraday a subscribe. Also, Exotic Propulsion. Join the Technicians JP. And Mr. Boyd, you're not on YouTube. How can people contact or follow you? I guess we've done a few interviews on my YouTube, though, videos together of your work.
I can put my, let's see here. Is it comments?
Yeah, comments, and maybe you want to post your LinkedIn post.
Yeah, maybe put like your Twitter or your Facebook in the private chat, and then I can post it into the comments if it doesn't let you comment, or if it lets you comment.
Yeah, it doesn't. It lets me read them, but I don't see where to
Okay,
post.
yeah. So if you put it in the private chat, then I'll copy it.
Okay.
And
Bernie
Okay,
will have
cool.
to authorize that YouTube will automatically block external links to, say, for example, LinkedIn. But your LinkedIn contains most of the information, even that from, say, quantum electrodynamics and other things that you've been commenting on.
Let's see here.
I do watch your LinkedIn, by the way, Uncle Boyd.
good old Linktree. Wait, oh, here we go. The Amazon. There we go. These are the electrode graphite rod cylinder.
Those are them.
Rods.
That's exactly what they look like. Put a paper towel around that
the base,
and wrap it with magnesium, and you've got yourself a piss-on-it battery that will be like an alkaline. And that's all you need to do. Very simple.
The perfect prepper, the perfect base and just emergency. So also to show the magnesium strip, I'm loading that one.
I'll mention that if you break those in half, you have almost the identical signature of a AA carbon pile battery. It won't have the power of an alkaline, but it will have the capacity. And it will also have the capacity and power equivalency of a carbon pile. So go ahead, make your own. All you got to do is, take a leak. And you're all good. You got power for your flashlight. You're not in the dark, and you can survive the apocalypse. Hopefully.
Okay, so I put my
Mr.
LinkedIn, my Twitter, and my email in there. You were talking about you were going to have a parts list or something that you were going to put on the live chat. Could you copy it over to the private chat, please?
Hey, Brady, you have those 3 parts, or I should say 2 parts, paper, carbon rod, strip. Those are the 2 parts, carbon rod and magnesium strip. Paper towel, anybody can pick it up at the grocery store, and I apologize if you don't have paper towel. I feel sorry for you. You don't have that modern day first world commodity. Use toilet paper instead. Looks just as good. Already tested it. I can verify that.
Yeah, so I posted in the live chat links, these links for it, and then for the 2 Amazon things, and then I will copy and write down the full parts list in the descriptions, I guess, after we're done streaming here. So, but it's these two specific.
Okay, I see them.
Ingredients, and yeah, there's Mr. Boyd's LinkedIn, his Twitter, and email. Oh, Mike, Esoteric Gold, our Utah alchemist, your mom saying you gotta go to bed. That's hilarious. It is that time, I guess. We are at that 2-hour time, so it's a good time to call her a night, and we'll be doing it again soon. I think it's an APEC this weekend, and also 2 weekends from now I'm arranging the next Science of Sound, so I will be in contact with all you lovely souls, the Mr. Boyd, Jeremiah, and we're going to have it with Rex and Jeremy Reese, alien scientist, as well. And it will be a good one on the Schumann resonance.
Cool.
Okay. On that ado, I guess we will call it a night and catch everyone on the next time. Make sure you subscribe to Exotic Propulsion, Faraday Research, and over with Mr. Boyd on Twitter and LinkedIn. Love you all, and thanks for joining in. Let me know. Please upload, anybody who makes these batteries and tests them, please upload your results, and I'm going to be making some myself and trying them in some of these monoatomic solutions, and we will update with the live results when it happens. Until the next one, ta-ta.